Have you ever loved someone who disappears just when you think you're getting close? Someone who craves freedom more than your affection? Someone who smiles at you, then walks away, chasing something even they can't explain? Here's a truth that might shock you. Sagittarius isn't just the most adventurous sign of the zodiac. They are the most uncontrollable. Not because they don't care about you, but because their soul refuses to be owned. Today, we're diving deep into the wild heart of Sagittarius. Not the surface level they love to travel cliches, but the real reasons why they run from control. Why they need open space like they need air. And why, sometimes, they choose freedom over love. Are you curious yet? Because what you'll hear in this video might explain not only the Sagittarius in your life, but even something hidden inside yourself. So, if you're someone who loves astrology, psychology, or understanding human nature, you're in the right place. Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Ready to explore the mind of the untamable? Let's begin. Have you ever wondered why some people just can't settle down? Why they seem allergic to routine? To promises, to anything that feels like a chain? Maybe you've met someone like that. Maybe you are someone like that. When we talk about Sagittarius, we're not just talking about someone who loves to travel. We're talking about a soul that fears losing itself. For Sagittarius, freedom is not a luxury. It's a survival instinct. Imagine being locked in a small room with no windows. That's how a Sagittarius feels when someone tries to control them. It's not just uncomfortable. It's unbearable. Their need for autonomy runs deeper than most people realize. It's not about wanting to rebel. It's about needing space to breathe. Think of that friend who always cancels plans at the last minute, not because they don't care, but because committing feels like signing away a piece of their freedom. Think of the partner who pulls away when conversations turn to future plans. It's not rejection. It's self-preservation. Sagittarius needs to know they still belong to themselves. And sometimes, that need is stronger than their desire to belong to someone else. But why does this happen? From a psychological view, Sagittarius individuals have what we might call an expansive identity. Their sense of self isn't fixed. It's fluid, always evolving. They don't want to be the same person next year that they are today. And any relationship or situation that asks them to freeze who they are feels like a silent death. That's why they run. Now, you might think this sounds sad or lonely. But for Sagittarius, it's not. It's a spiritual journey. Freedom, for them, is life itself. Telling a Sagittarius to settle down before they're ready is like asking a bird to live in a cage and still sing sweetly. The song stops. The spirit fades. And eventually, the bird forgets how to fly. What's even more fascinating is that their constant need to explore isn't just physical. Sure, many Sagittarians love traveling. But what they're really chasing is meaning. They're searching for understanding, trying to make sense of life in their own way. They're like philosophers on a never-ending road trip. Not because they're lost, but because they're looking for something bigger than themselves. Something most people don't even notice. Picture this. A Sagittarius wakes up one morning and decides they're done with their current job. Not because it's bad. Not because they're failing. But because their soul whispers, it's time for something new. And without hesitation, they walk away from security toward uncertainty. Why? Because that uncertainty holds the promise of growth, of discovery, of becoming someone new. To them, staying still is riskier than walking away. You see this in their relationships too. When they feel someone trying to define them, label them, possess them, it triggers a quiet panic inside. Not anger. Not hatred. but fear. Fear of being trapped in someone else's version of life. And so, they run. Not because they don't love you, but because they love themselves enough to protect their freedom. And here's where things get interesting. Their idea of freedom isn't just about open roads or empty calendars. It's about protecting their inner space, their mind, their soul. Even if they share their life with you, they need to know that their thoughts are still their own. That their dreams haven't been edited to fit someone else's script. It's a sacred kind of independence. And once you understand that, you'll stop trying to hold them. You'll start walking beside them. Now, you might wonder, why are they so honest? Why can't they just keep the peace like everyone else? The answer is simple. For Sagittarius, honesty isn't optional. It's their default setting. Pretending, hiding, sugarcoating. All feel like lies to them. Even when the truth is uncomfortable, they'll say it. Not to hurt you, but because silence feels dishonest. Have you ever had a Sagittarius friend who told you something no one else dared to say? Maybe it hurt in the moment. But later, you realized they were right. That's their gift. And their curse. But this honesty has another side. It makes them hard to control. You can't guilt them into silence. You can't manipulate them with subtle words. They'll sense it, call it out, and walk away if necessary. Their directness is like armor. It protects their freedom. And it demands honesty from those around them. Yet, it's not that they want to be alone. Sagittarius enjoys connection, laughter, long conversations. But they want those moments to be real. Not forced. Not controlled. They need to feel that being with you is a choice. Not an obligation. And that's the key. Choice. Sagittarius wants to choose you, every day, freely. If they feel pressured, that choice disappears. And so do they. So what's the lesson here? If you love a Sagittarius, stop trying to hold them. Stand beside them. Give them space. And watch how often they return to you. Not because you asked, but because they want to. And if you are a Sagittarius, maybe now you understand why people sometimes misunderstand you. Why they call you distant, unreliable, hard to love. But none of that's true, is it? You're just protecting something most people can't see. Your own freedom. Your own soul. And that, my friend, is worth protecting. Always. Let's talk about something people often misunderstand. Sagittarius doesn't resist commitment because they're afraid to love. They resist commitment when they're not absolutely sure it aligns with who they are. For them, commitment isn't casual. It's not something to do just because it's expected. It's a deep, sacred choice. And if that choice doesn't feel right, they won't fake it. Not for comfort. Not for loyalty. Not even for love. Imagine standing at a crossroads, with every path leading to a different version of your life. Sagittarius stands there longer than most. Not because they're lost, but because they know that once they step forward, they're committing their soul to that road. And they'll only choose when every part of them says, this is right. So, if you're with a Sagittarius and you're waiting for them to say yes, be patient. Because when they do say yes, it means something real. Now, think about rules. Most people follow them without question. Sagittarius doesn't. Not because they're trying to be difficult, but because they ask themselves, does this rule make sense to me? Does this rule help me grow, or does it keep me small? If the answer is no, they'll break the rule without hesitation. They aren't rebellious for the sake of rebellion. They're rebellious in the name of truth. Their truth. That's why you can't control them with authority or expectation. They follow a deeper guide, their own inner compass. It's the same when people try to pressure them into making choices. Sagittarius feels that pressure like a weight on their soul. And the more you push, the more they pull back. They don't want their life to be the result of someone else's timeline. Their decisions have to come from within, from their own readiness. If you try to rush them, they'll feel like you're taking away their freedom to choose. And when that happens, they'll walk away. This is where many relationships with Sagittarius fail. People confuse their distance with rejection. But in truth, they're stepping back to protect their autonomy. To protect their ability to say, "I chose this, not you." So, if you want a Sagittarius to stay, give them time. Give them space. Let them arrive at their choices from their own heart. Only then will they trust the journey. But perhaps the most beautiful and most challenging part of loving a Sagittarius is understanding their idealism. They're not dreamers. They're visionaries. They don't just imagine a better life. They believe in it. They fight for it. And they expect it. This makes them powerful. But it also makes them impossible to sway. Have you ever tried to convince a Sagittarius to settle for something less than what they believe in? It's like trying to convince the ocean to stop moving. Their ideals are the currents that guide their life. If you try to pull them away from their truth, you'll only drown in the resistance. They're not being stubborn. They're being honest. With themselves. And with you. This idealism shapes every choice they make. It's why they won't follow a path just because everyone else does. It's why they question tradition, authority, and even love, if those things don't feel authentic to their soul. Their ideals aren't flexible. Not because they're rigid. But because they're loyal to themselves. And here's the thing. This loyalty to their own truth often leaves them standing alone. But they'd rather be alone than be untrue. And that is something most people can't understand. So, if you love a Sagittarius, respect their ideals. Don't try to change them. Walk beside them, even if the path feels strange. Because to them, it's the only path worth walking. Now, you might ask, what happens when Sagittarius is forced to choose between love and freedom? Between belonging and truth? Between comfort and growth? The answer is simple. They will always choose the road that leads them deeper into themselves. Even if it's lonely. Even if it's uncertain. Because, for Sagittarius, nothing matters more than becoming who they're meant to be. And that choice, that inner devotion, is why they can never be controlled. But this journey isn't over. Because in the next part of this video, we're going to uncover the final 3 truths about Sagittarius, the ones that might surprise you the most. Or challenge everything you thought you knew about them. Stay with me. You won't want to miss what comes next. Let's go deeper now. Because what makes Sagittarius even harder to hold isn't just their ideals or their fear of being trapped. It's their constant hunger for more. And when I say more, I don't mean more money, more success, or more attention. I mean more experiences. More wisdom. More meaning. Imagine living in a world where no moment feels quite enough. Where every achievement fades too quickly. Where every answer leads to 10 new questions. That's what life feels like inside a Sagittarius mind. They're not restless because they're ungrateful. They're restless because their soul is wired to expand. Every time you think they've settled, they're already dreaming of something bigger. Not because they want to leave you behind, but because their spirit whispers, there's more to find. This hunger can make them hard to love, hard to understand, hard to keep. Because even if you give them everything, they'll still look to the horizon. Not out of dissatisfaction, but out of instinct. Think about that friend who moves to a new city every year. Or that partner who suddenly wants to switch careers, learn a new language, or start over in a place where no one knows them. It's not chaos. It's a pattern. A pattern of growth. Sagittarius believes life isn't meant to be static. It's meant to be discovered. Over and over again. And this applies not just to places, but to ideas. Sagittarius loves to debate. But not to win. They debate to expand. To challenge. To question. When they talk to you, they're not trying to prove they're right. They're inviting you to explore the world through their eyes. And they want to see through yours too. That's why you can't silence them. You can't expect them to agree just to keep the peace. They need that exchange of thoughts. That push and pull. It's how they grow. Have you ever felt frustrated by a Sagittarius constantly questioning your opinions? Maybe you felt they were being difficult. But the truth is, they were offering you a gift. A chance to think deeper. To explore further. For Sagittarius, conversation isn't small talk. It's connection. It's freedom. It's how their mind breathes. And here's something many people miss. Sagittarius isn't just mentally curious. They're emotionally driven too. But their emotions don't show up like you'd expect. They act from passion. From inner fire. If they don't feel lit up inside, they won't move. They won't commit. They won't engage. And you can't force that fire to burn. You can't motivate them with logic alone. Their heart needs to feel it. Their soul needs to say yes. This is why they can seem unpredictable. One day, they're all in. The next, they're gone. It's not because they're unreliable. It's because the passion that drove them forward faded. And without that inner spark, nothing outside can keep them. Have you ever tried convincing a Sagittarius to stay in a job they hate? Or to commit to a relationship that doesn't inspire them? It doesn't work. Because their energy doesn't respond to obligation. It responds to excitement. To purpose. To meaning. They're not lazy. They're not selfish. They're driven by something deeper. A need to feel alive. And when they do feel it, they'll give you everything. Every ounce of their energy. Every part of their heart. But when that feeling dies, no rule, no guilt, no pressure can bring them back. It's hard, isn't it? To love someone who listens to their passion more than your promises. But here's the beauty. If a Sagittarius chooses you from their fire, you'll never have to wonder if it's real. Because for them, nothing else is worth it. And now, we come to something most people never see. The nomadic heart of Sagittarius. Even when their body stays in one place, their mind is always on the move. They're dreaming of new horizons, imagining new lives, exploring endless possibilities. You might sit beside them every day. Sleep next to them every night. But part of them is always elsewhere. Not because they're detached. But because their soul isn't designed to belong to just one place. Or one person. Or one version of themselves. Trying to hold a Sagittarius still is like trying to hold the wind. You can feel it, you can dance with it, but you can't possess it. And the harder you try, the more it slips through your fingers. If you've ever watched someone you love drift away without warning, maybe now you understand. They weren't abandoning you. They were answering a deeper call. A call to explore, to evolve, to move toward the unknown. Not away from you, but toward themselves. And maybe you see this pattern in your own heart. Maybe you're the one who's always restless. Always curious. Always searching. And maybe, for the first time, you realize that's not a flaw. That's your freedom calling. So what's the secret to loving a Sagittarius? Don't try to hold them. Don't try to follow them. Instead, walk beside them. Let them explore. Let them dream. Let them change. And trust that if their heart stays close to yours, it's not because you asked. It's because they chose. And now, we're almost there. In the next part of this video, we'll uncover the final 3 reasons why nobody can control a Sagittarius. These truths are the most powerful, the most personal, and perhaps the most controversial of all. Stay with me, because what comes next might just change the way you see them forever. Let's talk about something people rarely see coming. Sagittarius doesn't just value their freedom. They protect it with sharp instincts, especially when emotions are involved. One of the quickest ways to lose a Sagittarius is to try and control them through guilt, or silent treatment, or those subtle games people play when they want to feel powerful in a relationship. You might think you're helping, that you're guiding them back to you. But to Sagittarius, emotional manipulation feels like betrayal. They can sense it almost instantly. It's not always logical. Sometimes, it's just a quiet voice in their chest saying, something here isn't honest. And when they feel it, they step back. Not to punish you, but to protect themselves. Sagittarius needs directness. They need honesty. They want to know where they stand. If you can't give them that, they'll walk. And once trust breaks, it rarely returns. Have you ever noticed someone shutting down after you tried to convince them using emotions instead of truth? Maybe it was a Sagittarius. Or maybe it's a part of yourself you've never understood. Remember this: emotional manipulation never works with a soul that's built on freedom. And that brings us to another misunderstood truth. Sagittarius loves people. They are curious, open, always interested in hearing new stories, learning new ideas, meeting new faces. You might think this makes them unreliable, that they're always moving from person to person. But in reality, every person they meet feels like a new doorway, a chance to see life from a different perspective. They aren't avoiding depth. They're searching for variety. Think about that friend who seems to have 10 different circles, who always knows someone new, who's always telling you about a conversation they had with a stranger that changed their thinking. That's Sagittarius energy. They don't collect people to feel important. They collect experiences to grow. Each new connection adds another piece to their understanding of life. And this is where many relationships falter. People try to limit a Sagittarius world. They say things like, "Why do you need new friends? Why can't you just stay here with me? Why do you always need more?" But limiting a Sagittarius social world feels, to them, like clipping their wings. They aren't being disloyal by meeting someone new. They're honoring their inner explorer. If you try to hold them back, they'll start looking for the exit. So what's the answer? Let them explore. Let them meet new people. Let them gather new stories. And when they return to you, they'll be bringing back a deeper, wiser version of themselves. Trust their curiosity, because it's not pulling them away from you. It's pulling them deeper into their own truth. Now, let's talk about something even more powerful. Sagittarius carries a deep, almost unshakable faith in life. This isn't about religion. It's about trust. Trust in themselves. Trust in the timing of things. Trust that whatever is meant for them will come, and what isn't will fall away. This inner belief system is what makes them so hard to control. You see, you can't lead someone who already trusts their own feet. You can't convince someone to fear life when they've built their identity on hope. Have you ever wondered how a Sagittarius can walk away from a stable situation without fear? How they can leap into the unknown and still smile? It's not recklessness. It's trust. A quiet, steady trust that life will catch them. That even failure is just part of the journey. And when you try to control them, when you try to tell them where to go, how to act, what's best for them, it clashes with this deep belief inside. They're not being stubborn. They're protecting their relationship with life itself. So, if you love someone with this energy, remember, they're not ignoring your advice. They're listening to something deeper. And that voice inside them is stronger than any outside guidance. Let them trust it. Let them trust themselves. Because even when they fall, they know they'll rise again. But what happens when fear enters the picture? When someone tries to control Sagittarius through jealousy? Through possessiveness? That's when things break completely. Sagittarius doesn't just dislike jealousy. It suffocates them. To them, jealousy feels like chains tightening around their freedom. They believe love should feel like an open sky, not a locked room. And when a partner begins to question their every move, to demand constant reassurance, to watch their steps too closely, Sagittarius starts to shrink inside. They don't see it as love. They see it as control. Not because they don't care about you, but because love, for them, means trust. If you can't trust them, they'll feel caged. And when that happens, their instinct is simple. Find the door. And walk away. Maybe you've been on the receiving end of this. Or maybe you've been the one pulling away. Either way, remember this. Jealousy doesn't make a Sagittarius feel loved. It makes them feel trapped. And they don't stay in cages. So, what's the lesson here? Love a Sagittarius by trusting them. Give them space to be themselves. To meet new people. To explore. To live with hope. Don't stand in front of them like a wall. Stand beside them like the open road. And if they choose to walk beside you, know that it's a choice. A gift. Not a requirement. And now, we're almost at the heart of it all. In the next part of this journey, we'll reveal the final 3 truths. The ones that might change everything you thought you knew about Sagittarius. They are the deepest, the most personal, and maybe even the most controversial. Stay with me. Because what's coming next is where it all begins to make sense. Now let's go to a place few people ever see. Inside every Sagittarius, behind the freedom, behind the curiosity, behind the passion, there's a surprising truth. They enjoy being alone. Truly alone. Not lonely. Just alone. Most people fear solitude. They avoid silence. They rush to fill empty spaces with noise and people and distractions. But Sagittarius? They lean into it. Solitude is their safe place. It's where they recharge. It's where they reconnect with who they are. You might have wondered why your Sagittarius friend suddenly disappears for days. Why your partner pulls away without warning. Why they choose quiet over conversation. It's not about you. It's not rejection. It's self-preservation. When life feels heavy, when relationships feel like too much, they step back. Not because they don't care, but because they need to hear their own thoughts again. They need space to breathe their own air. And this solitude gives them a strange kind of strength. Because once someone is comfortable being alone, they become impossible to control. Think about it. How do you hold on to someone who's not afraid to walk away? How do you pressure someone who finds peace in solitude? You can't. And that's why Sagittarius holds so much quiet power. They don't need anyone to complete them. They choose who to share their life with. And when that choice becomes pressure, they step back. But remember this. When they come back to you after time alone, it means something real. It means they've chosen you again. Freely. From a place of strength, not dependency. And that choice is worth more than any promise. And now, we arrive at the heart of it all. The final truth. The one that explains everything. Sagittarius is unpredictable. Not because they're unreliable, but because even they don't always know what they'll want tomorrow. They follow impulses. They follow curiosity. They follow feelings that shift like the wind. One moment, they're planning a future with you. The next, they're dreaming about a solo trip to a place they've never seen. It's not chaos. It's how they're built. They're not living life by a fixed plan. They're living in motion. They're responding to life as it comes. To new opportunities. New dreams. New questions. And this makes them hard to understand, even harder to predict. But here's what matters. Their unpredictability isn't about pushing you away. It's about pulling themselves closer to what feels true in each moment. Imagine trying to build a strict schedule around the wind. It doesn't work, does it? The wind moves where it needs to. And Sagittarius is the same. Trying to lock them down will only make them slip away. Not to hurt you, but to save themselves. If you love a Sagittarius, understand this. They don't need you to plan their future. They need you to walk beside them as they change their mind. As they shift their path. As they evolve. That's not instability. That's freedom. That's life. So, where does that leave us? Maybe you've seen yourself in this. Maybe you've seen someone you love. Either way, now you know. Sagittarius isn't impossible to love. They're impossible to control. And there's a difference. A powerful difference. If you love a Sagittarius, don't try to hold them. Don't try to change them. Give them space. Give them freedom. Let them breathe. And if they stay, know it's not because they need you. It's because they chose you. And that choice is the purest love they can give. And if you are a Sagittarius, maybe now you understand why people sometimes misunderstand you. Why they call you restless. Why they say you're hard to love. But it's not true. Is it? You're just protecting your freedom. Your truth. Your soul. And that is something worth honoring. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. If you felt something in these words, if you saw yourself or someone you care about, hit that subscribe button. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Maybe a Sagittarius who never knew why they feel the way they do. Or someone who's been trying to hold on to one. And stay close. Because this channel is just beginning. We'll explore every sign. Every truth. Every hidden piece of the human soul. Together. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Until then, keep exploring. Keep questioning. And never let anyone take your freedom. Not even yourself.